I want to thank you for coming out to our social justice community conversation tonight. It really deals around what does the law have to do with being part of the LGBTQIA plus community. So we want to delve into that to find out some questions from our panelists, but also we're going to open it up to the audience, so therefore you're able to ask questions as well, just to kind of get into what community members think about that particular topic. First, we'd like to do some thank yous. We want to thank our funders, which is the Our Fund Foundation, as well as the Community Foundation of Broward, and also our community partners, Trans Inclusive. They're here with us tonight as well. So let's give a round of applause for our sponsors, as well as our community partners. So I want to welcome our esteemed panel. So therefore, I thank you so much for joining us this evening. We have Jabari Harris on the end. And we have Major John Barrow. And we have Reverend Pastor James Smith. And the icon, Tatiana Williams. And I'm going to be your host tonight, Lorenzo Robertson with the Ujima Men's Collective. So one of the things with our organization, we're the Ujima Men's Collective. We work in various components of our community. One of the things that we do we have 5 tenets that we work under, which is leadership, advocacy, spirituality, relationships, health, and wellness. So we try to incorporate those areas into all the programs that we do whenever we're working in the community. We have our mission statements, just really to deal with we want to build a collective of Black, same-gender loving men who will educate, inspire, and inform and encourage themselves, but also the greater community. What we've done also, when we're talking about what we do with the Black same-gender loving men, we also include those that love and support us, because we realize that we can't do a lot of the work that we do without other people to support us as well. So we always want to include our allies as well. Our transgender community, the lesbian community, the heterosexuals, want to include everyone else in terms of working with us when we're doing different things in our community as well. So what we're going to do is start out with each one of our panelists to give a brief, just a brief bio of who they are, so therefore you have an idea of who the panelists are. So we'll start with Tatiana, and then we'll move down the panel.
Good evening once again, everyone. I am Tatiana Williams, Executive Director and co-founder of Trans Inclusive Group, which is a trans-led organization here in Broward County. Actually, the first Black trans-led organization in Broward County, to be exact. And a lot of our work is centered around protecting and defending the rights of the LGBT community, with a particular focus on transgender individuals, and particularly Black. So I'm also on the board of directors for the Human Rights Campaign, and I'm a council member for Equality Florida. I do a lot of national work for the transgender community, ensuring that we are working in a place of collaborative work to make sure that we are putting best practices in places for our siblings to make sure that they have safe spaces and improving their quality of life. So my work is rooted in community. I've been a part of the community for doing this work 20 plus years, advocacy that I didn't know what was advocacy, coming from a pageantry background, and then I just took that dive into the work of this advocacy when it comes to HIV, preventive housing. So a lot of our services is we do a lot of emergency support. So if an individual's in need of their, rent gaps or light bill, phone bill, whatever those things that they need, I thought that it was very important to create an organization and something that is tangible for the community. Oftentimes they reach out to us as a number, surveys, just coming to spaces. However, it wasn't really meeting those emergent needs. So it was important for me to orchestrate that. So now we're in a place that we're working now with women, in particular Black women. So we have a new strategic program coordinator, which is in the audience, Chris Gordon. And that was great for me because it just shows the expansion of the work of the organization. When I first started, I saw it through a trans woman lens, but through doing this work, I see it through other vessels, and I can feel what's happening in our community on a larger level. So I'm great to be here, glad to do the work that I do. Thank you.
Thank you, Tatiana.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. My name is Reverend James Smith, pastor of New Jerusalem Missionary Baptist Church. I kind of dived into this thing through my personal fight. For 4 years, I kind of was trying to make the transition to come out, and in doing so, I brought my church right along with me, because a lot of times what you don't know, you fear. And I started out maybe about 4 years ago, starting out doing Black symposiums on HIV, the Black taboo of the taboo of the Black church, HIV and AIDS. We talk about it. We sing Hallelujah on Sundays, but all of us know somebody that's been touched by HIV and AIDS, but they were uneducated about it. So my passion was to try to educate our older Black people who still have that stigma that it's just a gay disease, or it's just, a male disease, or you can get it from the toilet, and that type of stuff. And you would be surprised how many people still think like that. And then the stigma of just the whole thing with the church and the LGBTQ community, trying to build that gap. That because the church is supposed to be inclusive of everybody. It's a place where everybody should be able to come, and a no judgment zone. And so I stepped out on faith and said that, you know what, I'm going to stop living a lie. I'm going to live in my truth. And the first person that I told was my mother. My mother embraced me, and of course, you know what she said, boy, I knew since you were born. I knew before you knew. But because I tried to live a life for many years, I'm talking about over 30 years, trying to please everybody else and not pleasing myself, I'm playing catch up now. I don't want another young Black male who's trying to be positive in the community to have to hide behind trying to be heterosexual just to fit in. And so I wanted to be one of those that hit the door, because I know there's those that are coming behind me. There are pastors that are coming behind me. They may not say, "Yay, James, do it," but behind closed doors, they're saying, "That boy is doing this thing. He's brave." And so, maybe 10 years, 15 years from now, it may be more acceptable. But if I can, my daddy used to sing a song, if I can just help just that one person, then my living won't be in vain. And so that is why I'm here today.
Good evening, my name is John Barrow. I was born right here in South Florida and grew up in Carroll City. So I've spent my whole life here. I went off to college 4 years and came back to serve my community. I'm the youngest of 4 sisters, and they moved around the country, but I wanted to water the grass here where I live to make this a better community for everyone. So when I came back from college, I joined up with the Miami-Dade Police Department, the largest police department in the southeastern United States, 8th largest in the nation. And I was out, gay Black male, since the academy, so everyone knew there was no hiding. And I have been privileged to work every community in Miami-Dade County, from one end to the next, and not only that, to be promoted through every rank. I was an officer, then a sergeant, lieutenant, and a captain. And I was appointed a major 4 years ago. I was the major of West Kendall, our most populous district, major of North Side, which is our smallest district by surface square miles, but has some of the highest crimes and the real community problems to solve. I was able to bring shootings down there 23% year over year that I was there, and now I'm the head over the department's HR, dealing with all of our employees, all of our unions, all of our benefits, everything. I believe I proved myself through my work that, it's police work is a right-leaning organization, and especially in some places that I've been, but by my work, no one was able to question me, and that's how I was able to move around and get promoted, because I knew how to get the job done. There's a small group of out folks in our department, and we have a little meeting space there where we can meet and talk. But it's very important because now, for the first time in 60 years, Miami-Dade Police Department and Miami-Dade County is going to move to an elected sheriff. We were the only county in the state of Florida, 67 counties in the state of Florida. We were the only one with an appointed sheriff, but now it's going to be an election, and I filed to run for that election in September. And I've been running ever since, and intend to win. And also important, not only gay, black, male, but I think black. There's been no countywide black elected official in Miami-Dade County in my lifetime. And Art Teal came close, but he wasn't able to become the mayor. But right now, the mayor, state attorney, public defender, property appraiser, 0 black countywide officials. So it was a very important race, and I'm here to represent multiple minorities and get the job done.
And last but not least, how y'all doing? My name is Jabari, affectionately known as Tweety, Coach Tweety, depending on where you go. I've worked in aquatics from Broward and Dade County, and they know me as Coach Tweety. Right now, I currently serve as the aquatic facility operator for the city of Miami Gardens. I am raised in Carroll City, graduated from Carroll City, class 97. That's inside. So I do a lot of work with inside of the community. I do have a catering company. I am the creator of Tweety's Front Porch. I've started the Juneteenth Black Lives Advocating Change Juneteenth Cook-Off. Look out for it. We're doing it this year. It will be on June 19th. The actual day of Juneteenth is Wednesday, so save the date. I work with inside of different communities, different nonprofits with inside of our communities. I'm audacious inside of character, but I am very vigorous when it comes to standing up for my people with inside of my community. A lot of my friends call me the militant one. I'm pretty sure that since we're on this panel, y'all can have y'all own opinion after that, but I will give it to you blood raw. I'm not gonna sit up here and sugarcoat anything. I don't stand behind any titles or whatever. I believe what you see is what you get, and earnesty attracts the love and respect, and that's what I'll give to y'all, and I only accept it in return. So I am very honored to be on this panel of prestigious people that I'm with or whatnot, and I'm ready to share some good energy and talk about the movement that's within inside of our community, the movement that we want within inside of our community, because we can only be the example that we want to see inside of our community. So thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for the introduction, because I just want people to understand who the people are that are on the panel tonight, so know that what their journeys have been, what their reputations are, and how they actually got here. Because when I choose people to be on our panels, I try to get a diverse group. I don't want people who are monolithic, they're all the same, giving you the same information. So I try to get people who are going to give you some different type of perspectives in terms of their life journeys, their experiences, and from where their perspectives are going to be very different. So that's one of the reasons why our panels look very different from a lot of other panels that I attend. So we're going to start out with our first question. First, I want to kind of talk about where we are in terms of our political realm here. I just want to get someone else's perspective on what our former president said in terms of, one, if he does not become president, it's going to be a bloodbath. The other part is that when he's talking about the immigrants, people who are coming from other countries, that they're animals. I mean, when you hear these types of things coming from anyone, what are your personal thoughts in terms of why is this happening in our country at this point in time?
Anybody? Because I'm honestly not surprised. Trump has proven himself to be a bigot over and beyond, even before he was inside of office. This is another insurrection that he's inciting. A bloodbath? Who are you inciting this bloodbath upon? Because obviously it's not within inside of your supporters, which I don't want to call nobody no idiots, but it obviously there is a hole There is something that you was with inside of, or you are really inciting or tapping inside of the hate that is already there, that has been building, because ever since he had became inside of office, it has really become a war zone for us. And I'm not just talking about us as in Black LGBTs, I'm talking about us as in people of color, period. Even the people who are not of Caucasian descent, who think they are Caucasians, make no mistake of it, they will remind you and let you know that you are not a part of them.
Thank you, Jabari.
I don't want to hog the mic.
But you're absolutely correct, and I do agree with that. What we're seeing now with him is nothing new. It's a perpetuation of who he's always been. He just has a broader platform now, so more people know who he is. But I think we'll go ahead and get into our topic for tonight. One of the first things I want to do is talk about, when we talk about different laws that impact people here, especially the LGBTQ community, one of the things we want to talk about is, why do you think it's important for us to decriminalize HIV disclosure here in the state of Florida? Because that's one of the things, if you do not share your HIV status and you engage in sexual contact with someone, it is a felony here in the state of Florida. It's a third-degree felony. You can be arrested and you can go to jail for that. Why is it important for us to actually decriminalize HIV disclosure here in the state of Florida? And we'll start with Ms. Tatiana.
Oh, okay. I'm going to answer that, but I also wanted to say something in reference to the first question that you asked. I think that it's important that we have to acknowledge how racism shows up in the structural and the system, how it's set up. And I think that person understands that, right? And is using what he's known to be working for the community. So, and there are some people that feel like that. So when we talk about racism, when we talk about here in social justice and economic justice and all of those things, he understands what that looks like. And he built his constituents a bunch of rhetoric, as we all know. However, it's working because the bigger picture for me, why is he still able, right? That part. To your other question. To the other question, I think when it comes to the criminalization of HIV and disclosure, I think that it's important that when we are creating these laws and to protect our community, right? But if we're not updating that and making sure that people know the nuances and things that are happening when we're talking about U equals U, undetectable equals untransmittable, I think that it's important that we have to bring that into the conversation. And if we don't have people in legislation and in places that are educated or getting the right information to be able to make those decisions, that's where we run into that situation, right? And I think that it's important for us as advocates to keep disseminating that message and stay on the front lines and make sure that the people that are in places are advocating for us in the right way. But I do think there's some movement when it comes to that.
Me personally, I think that, as she said, it's about education. Once you educate yourself, then education is empowerment. And I think that anybody that you sleep with, you should look at them as to protect yourself.
That's right. Yep.
And then you made, like in school, you made an educated decision to lay down with that person.
Yeah.
And before you lay down with that person, you should ask yourself all those questions in your head. And it should not be up to the person that I sleep with to be penalized for me not doing my due diligence.
Come on now.
That's just how I feel about the whole situation. And in that, you have to understand that a lot of times that is something personal. That when you start talking about HIV and AIDS, when you started to reveal that, that is a personal thing. Sometimes because I sleep with you don't mean I want to be with you forever. let's just be real about it. And of course, I don't want my business to be spread all over Broward County and Dade County. And so, some of us have got married and married the wrong people. So of course, we slept with some people that were the wrong people. And so therefore, I feel that it is a decision that you should make inside of yourself to protect yourself. It should not, you should not be in trouble for me not taking care of my due diligence.
Well, I'm just going to start off by saying, I have been in law enforcement nearly 18 years now, have that law enforcement perspective, and I believe in the way I've done my job for my whole career is, and what I say, and then I have to walk what I say, is that we have to listen to each other and have to have conversations. So that's why I really like this platform of community conversations, because I've gone out into the community to listen, to figure out what are the best ways to solve problems in the communities with the people that live there. And that was all preface to say that I may play the devil's advocate as well. So, but while I do understand that, I think, and I'm not trying to excuse the law, I think the laws were created 30, 40 years ago. HIV was a different thing. And so that was like a sentence, like a death sentence, So these laws were created. Like Tatiana said, trying to protect, I wouldn't say our community, but trying to protect the community from the spread of HIV. But like Tatiana said, I do believe those things need to be updated, and that's up to the legislature to update. And I also believe that while we do have to ask questions to the folks we sleep with, if one knows that he or she, is infected, I think they also have to speak up as well. Like, it can't just be, oh, I didn't ask you, so you didn't ask me, so I didn't say anything. We're gonna have sex. So I think there needs to be a conversation had by both parties and to stop assumptions as well, because that way we can really stop the spread of HIV.
I'm honestly on the fence. I believe, like how he said, that there should be a conversation. I've been living with HIV since when? I think I was diagnosed in 2010. I'm patiently awaiting my 10-year anniversary of being undetectable in 2024. But like, on my first date, if I'm gonna take you seriously, I'm gonna talk about status. Sex is so free right now. People will ask you if you top or bottom before they ask you how many times you've been tested. If you're gonna ask me these questions, then we should be talking about testing. We should be talking about status. It shouldn't be so taboo. It shouldn't be something that you are so afraid to talk about, or okay, I don't really want to talk about it because I know everything or whatnot. Because if you knew everything, the numbers wouldn't be so fucking high. So I'm really on the fence of it, because I feel that those who demonize and bastardize it, who sit up here and actually just give it out, who not going and getting tested and stuff like that, I think that they should be penalized to the top of the law.
That's right.
But I also have to sympathize with this side of my community. I also know that love is at an all-time high, and that a lot of people associate sex with love. And so I also know that when they are hooking up, that they're not thinking about saying, hey, you know what I'm saying, what about my status or whatever, and they think that, okay, if we just have sex with a condom, then that's me omitting it, or that's me being, cautious, or that's me thinking for you or whatnot, because like you said, the next person or whatever, let's not take away that responsibility either, because we are both consenting adults.
That's right.
So I'm honest. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No. I think I agree with all of it, but last night we was having a conversation, but I also think that it's very, very important that one is in charge of their own sexual health, right? In addition to those conversations, I still think that you hold some responsibility in that regard, right? And I made the comment, I'll say it here because I feel a little safe.
It's a safe place.
I'm gonna tell y'all a story. So it's this guy that I was dealing with came over XYZ, and it was getting hot and steamy. And I told this to Chris last night. It was getting hot and steamy. And I ended up like in a position, right? And my hands went under the pillow. And I noticed that he had his condoms under the pillow, right? And mine was on the nightstand, right? And neither one of us picked the condom up or used it, right? In the heat of that moment. And I knew exactly what I was doing, and I work in the field. And that's just being completely transparent, because things happen. And in that moment, I'm like, he knew better, and so did I. So I always say that you are in charge of your sexual health. I just wanted to add that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tati.
And just like with this side of that story, this is where I stand on the fence. This is where I stand on the fence, because it's like, we're all consenting adults.
You said stand on the fence.
That's it, and that's why I stay on the fence for it, because we're all consenting of those.
Yeah.
We're all consenting of those. If it's gonna be good for the goose, it gotta be good for the gander.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
And I think that I agree with you, but I think also the responsibility for me is it stems with the person who's living with the virus. So therefore, if they're living with it, they know. So they should share that information. I know sometimes it may be challenging and hard, all that type of stuff, but it's still to be honest, because however you got the virus, if you're living with it, however you got it, you may have not have been told, you may have gotten it, all kind of things could have happened, but giving this other person, giving them a choice.
Yes.
And I think that's, for me, that's the bottom line, giving that other person a choice. So giving them the opportunity to say, yes, I want to do it without, or yes, I want to do it with, but they have a choice in the matter. It's not you're not doing the Russian roulette type thing, you're just going to, whatever happens. No, you're giving that person a choice to actually make a decision for themselves. Going back to what you're saying, we're all responsible for our own sexual health. But I can't be responsible for my sexual health if you're taking that choice away from me.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Hashtag I believe in the choice.
Yes.
That's it.
So the first question we dealt with was dealing with specifically with the decriminalization of HIV disclosure in the state of Florida. The next one we want to go to is talking about what can we do in our community to combat the high rates of violence and homicide perpetrated on Black and brown transgender women in the United States, or primarily here in our area? And also, how can we also talk about the gay panic defense?
Can we open up the gay panic defense?
Open it up. Basically, a lot of people, when they are in those situations, they're in a sexual situation, they're saying that they didn't know that the person was transgender. So therefore, they're using that as their defense in terms of why they became violent after the sexual act. And usually it's after the sexual act, it's not before. So therefore, it's after they've had sex with the person and they're like, they didn't know that the person was a man, that this person was transgender. They didn't know those types of things. So therefore, at that point, then they are now saying that now I am going to retaliate against this person because I felt as though they did not tell me this. And sometimes I think that people are very, very transparent that I am a transgender woman. And I don't think that it's always just that the person did not know. I think it's other things that are in play there, and I think those are the things that are happening. Those are the things that I want to know, how can we actually combat those things in our community to help protect our siblings?
That's a difficult question. Maybe I'll try to answer that, because I think it stems from both racism and sexism when you're talking about violence against Black and brown transgender, because it's like a microcosm of a microcosm. Like first we're discriminated against because we're Black, and now we're discriminated against because we're transgender, and now you have both. And there's a lot of that folks who want to have intimate relations with that, but now they also are just angry at themselves as well. So it's like a lot of balled up anger, and then lack of resources for the victims. And I think this is where the violence comes from. But stemming that is going to be a trickier thing.
So, when this conversation comes up, it's a little deep for me because I had a lot of close friends, kids, to be murdered due to senseless violence, right? And it's kind of at the forefront of my work. And when I think about when you were saying that you worked in the Northside area, the first thing I was thinking about the calls that I still receive to this day about being protected and how law enforcement does not protect them, and how the laws, when a lot of these perpetrators are committing these crimes, how they're not penalized enough, and then they end back on the street. And investigating these cases are not really thorough, and a lot of these cases go cold. So when we talk about the system, what does protection look like for Black and brown trans women? And what does it look like when we're saying these laws, and how do we protect them? And how the community understands that this community, we will not tolerate you murdering these people, right? I don't think there's a good message that is being articulated to the community. So these particular individuals continue to do what they do. It is 2024, but I'll just say in 2022 or in 2020, the gay defense and they don't know who and what it was, that's garbage. These people know exactly what they're doing, know exactly who they're getting in bed with, and that's an excuse. So what I would say is someone that's in law enforcement, how do we challenge the system to do better by these people, right? Because that's the question for me. That's what I always think about, and even in this work, working with law enforcement, trying to understand what's happening with a lot of our community members, and I continue to reach out when something happens to one of our community members and the cases go cold, right? There's no follow-up. There's no urgency. So when we talk about what protections look like, what do they look like? How do we protect them? Because if the system is not there to protect them, what do we do? So now there are a lot of trans women that are arming themselves to protect themselves, right? So then that puts them in a situation where they can also be arrested, right? So it's so many things, and I think having those conversations and having people in the room is very, very important in this work, right? And we create these beautiful panels, but I think that it's important that we have people in places that understand what's happening in our community to be able to disseminate that message in a way. So how do you feel that we can better protect you? I do understand in some cases, like you're saying in Northside, that there's a lot of sex work that happens there, right? And in that sex work, which is survival, and in them trying to survive, things happen in that case, right? So for me, which goes back to creating Trans Inclusive Group, creating a space to be able to make sure that these women understand how do we, as a community, improve our quality of life. And we can't only do that within our spaces, but we also need the help of law enforcement. So that is layered, right? When we talk about protections, that's layered.
You know, and I agree, having worked there as well, you know, like I said, there's a high call volume, let me say it that way. A lot of stuff happening and personnel, not enough to deal with not enough for what the community needs. And so I've seen our detectives that have multiple caseloads, you know, 10, 14, 15 cases a month. So, you know, I believe that we need more resources, more officers and detectives on the streets, especially in North Side and South and Intracoastal. That way that we can have more investigators, and there's also has to be like an education and training, an education factor, because you know sometimes. And I think it's, I'm trying, you know, trying
to say
to.
the officers are transphobic, maybe?
Well, there's not an education of the trans community, and we see a transgender victim, and then we're like, oh, you know, but we have something else to do. You know? So that's not helpful. We need folks to understand. Everyone's a victim. All victims are victims, and with all the work we have to do, we have to also ensure that we are handling every victim's case, and then it's a much larger boat, because even when our detectives do work up cases, then we have a state attorney's office that we're overworked, we don't have enough state attorneys, we're gonna, you know, we don't think that case is winnable, we're gonna drop it, you know, we're not gonna file the charges. So that's a whole criminal justice system that needs to work together. And then there's, you know, further access to other things like health and jobs and everything else, which is, you know, why we have the conditions we have in certain districts like Northside, just to systemic issues that are not just the purview of the police, but require the whole community to get involved to try to make a better change. But I can only talk about police work, and I do, you know, I was there, and I hope that I convey that, you know, every victim is a victim, and their case should be handled rightly.
Wow, thank you for that. I think one
There
of
was
the
a
things
question. I'm not sure if we didn't take in the.
Oh, just a moment. I was thinking, I agree with something that Tatiana said earlier in reference to how we have to look at how racism is just systemic, in our communities, and how all of our institutions that we primarily go to, like police, education, they were not built for people who look like us. They were not designed for black people. So therefore, it's already stacked against you in all of these things. The police departments didn't really come into play until after slavery was ended. That's when the police departments and the Department of Correction, that's when those things actually came into play after slavery, because we're the only ones that need to be in prison. So therefore, we have to realize all of these institutions that we go to, they were not designed to protect us. And so that's why one of the things we really have to kind of look at, how do we protect ourselves and what is it that we can do? That's why I was asking the question, because if Susie, white girl, died in an area, there's going to be an investigation, and they're going to find that particular perpetrator. He's going to go to jail. But when it's a transgender black woman, it's not the same urgency in terms of trying to find the perpetrator. There's not the same urgency in terms of trying to find that person and putting them in jail and making sure that the state attorney's office find that it's a winnable case. And unfortunately, that's how they look at it. Is this winnable?
And I think something that Tatiana mentioned regarding sex work, I think it's like a general idea though, that's a risk of the job, you know. So, and that's something that would have to change, that thought process, especially because you're a victim, you know. It's not, you were engaged in sex work, that's a risk you're taking.
But I also want to know, like, when we talk about, as you mentioned earlier, about the laws, LGBTQ and transphobic agendas, right? So think about if you're in a state or in a country where people are against transphobe, how do you expect them to be safe? And what makes you think that law enforcement or any other will protect these individuals when you hear people like, oh, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't be this, or you shouldn't do that? What's going to cause that urgency when they are telling you from the government it's not urgent?
Right, and that's what it goes back to us educating ourselves and us protecting us. So therefore, we have to be out there to help protect our siblings, regardless, because law enforcement is saying you're doing something illegal. So therefore, you're committing a crime here. Why are we protecting you? So therefore, that becomes the overarching perspective of a lot of law enforcement. I'm not speaking for y'all, I don't know, but I'm just saying that's how it comes across. So therefore, going to my next question, actually, why is it important for us to decriminalize sex work? So therefore, it's not something that I'm doing illegal. It's not something I'm doing wrong. I'm doing it to survive, to live. Why? What can we do to kind of decriminalize sex work as well? I mean, because it's work. You know, you're doing it. You're putting in the work. You're getting money. It's a transaction. So therefore, why are we not making it just like, I'm an accountant. I did your taxes. You paid me a fee. You're performing a service for a client.
Consulting work.
Sex work is honestly
Name it how you want it.
more common than it is taboo.
All right.
Sex work is honestly more common than it is taboo. Not only is it the oldest profession, but nowadays it's at your fingertips. You have Fansly, you have OnlyFans, you have Just for Fans. These are all forms of sex work, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, in all honesty, like, who's really honestly looking at it as criminal when we have high school students who can't wait to get to 18 so they can put it up on there?
It is, unfortunately, it's still illegal, and people still can be arrested and those
Which
types of
is
things.
true.
And those are the things that are like, why can't we put it where it's not illegal? So therefore, people who are doing survival sex work, they're not being criminalized for trying to live, trying to put a roof over their head, trying to put food in their food in the mouths of their children. Why is it that we're making this such a criminal thing? White collar criminals can just eradicate thousands and millions of people with their pharmaceuticals that they put out. Nothing happens to them, and that's okay. But I'm trying to put food in my mouth, a roof over my head. I'm being criminalized because I'm having sex.
And so sex work does encompass a broad area, and some is legal, like OnlyFans, if you're 18 and you know the criteria, yada yada yada. Prostitution is a type of sex work, and that is illegal, as we know. I know in my experience that sometimes there are folks who are doing sex work because they need to put a roof over their head, but then there are also some people who are victims themselves and being forced to do this work. There's a industry around it on the street level. It's business. So they themselves are in danger, and if they are not working, they're even in greater danger if their pimp sees them on the corner not doing what they're supposed to do. It's like an organized scheme. So I don't think that should be legal, because that is like an organized criminal organization forcing people to do things against their will. Then we roll into human trafficking and folks who don't even want to be doing sex work, but now they're forced to do it. So that is an issue. And then we have the other layer of the people who live in the neighborhood calling the police saying there are prostitutes on the corner, get them off my corner. And we as police, we have to respond to those 911 calls. We have to respond to the community's needs. We have to do something about it. My time in Northside, there were 3 shifts of police, days, noons, and midnights. But there were also 3 shifts of prostitutes as well. And I got the email directly, not Major Barrow, I'm taking my kids to school and there's these people working this corner and we have to pass this every day. It's 8 in the morning. What are you going to do about it? So if that person lives on that block their whole life, 30 plus years, they don't want to see this in their neighborhood. So now we have to do something about it. It's a complex issue. Now, the folks who are like trying to sustain their lives, I think that's laws. There has to be something done about that. The criminalization should really be on the Johns and not on the workers. Because right now you can arrest the prostitute or you can arrest the person trying to buy the services. I know the state of Maine passed a law in December late last year, winter of 23. I think it's the first state in the nation that did just that. So it allowed sex workers to not be penalized, but it penalizes those who are procuring the services in the attempts to make it safer. Because yes, then it leads, there's a whole host of issues that comes after prostitution, because now we have a overly, high police presence in the area, so now we're going to go into darker areas, and now we're less safe, and now, the folks who are trying to procure the services might beat us, might try to not pay us and get into fights and shootings, and all that has happened. So it's a very complex and large issue that if someone calls 911 and they're seeing this, we have to do something about it. But must we always penalize the folks who are out there working or the ones who are controlling the ring? I think I would like to target on the folks that are doing an organized scheme in a neighborhood to make the neighborhood safe, and the folks who are procuring the services.
I think where my church is, there's a club right next door, and there are times I come out early to church and I'm picking condoms up. We got kids that go outside doing Sunday school. So when you say that it's a wide range, I have some duplexes off of 6th and 14th, and there has been times when I've had to go out there and break up fights. 2 o'clock in the morning, Mr. Smith, please come and help me. And I've sat down, I've had conversation with some of them, and they say, some of them say, they're not doing it to feed themselves. Let's just be honest. Everybody not doing it to feed themselves. Some of them are doing it for other reasons, just to be doing it. And so therefore, you can't say, why should we decriminalize it because these people are just trying to feed themselves. Let's just be real. Everybody's not just trying to feed themselves. And so, so like you said, it's a wide spectrum. I'm on the fence on it. Yeah, there are some my heart goes out to them, and then there are others I'm like, you really need to get yourself together. And so,
and that's
I'm right there.
A complaint we've received as well. Like, oh, there are condoms on the floor. So it's a quality of life issue, I guess, for that neighborhood, for the residents and businesses in the neighborhood and they want the police to do something about it, of course, then, we also have police, but we want the police to not, be manhandling folks and as well, so it's a...
Can we speak about the ones who aren't necessarily trying to do survival work? Because I do know that there are the ones who are surviving, but there's also those ones who don't want to be ridiculed or faced with bias inside of the workplace or whatnot, or rejected just because they're living their authentic selves or whatnot. Like, and I'm not fussing and coming off aggressive, but these are my people. And I think LGBT and all the other letters that I don't know and I don't understand, but we are all underneath that same umbrella. You know what I'm saying? So when they are attacked, I am attacked. You know what I mean? So when it comes to when it comes to our girls that are the working girls or whatnot, yes, not all of them are out there trying to put food in their mouth, but all of them are also, they're all trying to survive and work, because this world, I was about to go in, it's some more questions. They're being labeled, they're being attacked or whatnot, and it's not really them, we, all of us, because when one get hit, like, hello, like, okay, so all of y'all about the same hood for me. Like, if you fight one, you fight all of us. Like, and that's that.
I think you mentioned it speaks to, again, back to the structure, back to the system, right? So when you're talking about education access, it's not always easy for trans folk, and particularly Black trans women, to access employment, education. So some of those things push them into positions where they have to survive. And I think when it goes back to being educated and being in places and having the right people in spaces to articulate those messages. What's important to me, being a sex worker for 30 plus years, I hung it up a little bit, but it's always, and I said a little bit because it's always in the back of my mind, if this doesn't work for me, I may have to pick her back up, because that's the reality of it. Because I know if something that will save me is that. So for me, it's always there, right? As a support and as a safety net, which is why I'm able to advocate the way that I do, because if I disrupt a room, or if I disrupt people, and people say, we gonna blackball her, guess what? The one thing that I know to be true fact, and I'm gonna say this in this space, my pussy gonna sell. That's what I know. It saved me. So in the conversation when you said about when I used to be on the street, I saw those condoms. I know exactly what you're talking about. And I always said, it's back to discretion, because if you all want to be out here and you don't want law enforcement and people, I think you do have to respect your business. And the reason why I was able to survive in sex work, because to me, that's what it was, a business. So if you're leaving condoms, if people are coming out their homes at 8 o'clock in the morning and you are half dressed, yeah, that will pose a problem to your business, right? So it's not just the law enforcement, it's just not just let you sex work, but you do have to do things with some discretion. So for me, when I'm speaking to sex workers in my spaces, I'm not trying to stop you from doing anything. But what I will do is try to keep you safe and tell you how you can do that better. Because I do understand what that looks like being a sex worker. I just was fortunate enough to get out of it.
Thank you, Katrina.
Well, I mean, I just want to make a statement. As someone who has traveled, there are communities that have zoned areas for sex work, right? Mm-hmm. And to be able to walk in those communities, you don't see all the condoms and stuff around. You see families walking back and forth. So I just think that we in the states have to get to that level, so it's not criminalized and it's not looked down upon. Because there are models out there, and there are models in safe spaces for the transgender community. Bangkok is one. There's a whole zoned area that tourists and people that go, and it's a safe space for them. So there are, again, there's models out there. We just have to figure out how do we make it work here for the community here.
Yeah. Thank you for that. The only problem that we in the United States, we have this very patriarchal perspective on everything. We have this very Christian dynamic on everything, and all that kind of layers everything in terms of all of that. And you're right, the models are there if we chose to do that. The models are there if we wanted to decriminalize sex work, all the types of things that we always that we look down upon, that we say are taboo. All those things to be done in a legal way here in the United States, but we choose not to because we want to be able to look down on somebody.
Exactly.
We want to be able to say these are the bad people, and that's kind of how we continuously have these hierarchies in our community in terms of who are the good people, who are the bad people. And so we think about people doing sex work, oh, those are the bad people. And those are some of the things as to why we have those type of laws in the United States. It's the patriarchal view of how we look at things. We always try to use the Judeo-Christian view of everything. And again, these are the things again that put us in slavery. All these types of things, they're there, but they were not always good for us as a people. But there are the things that we still look at these things in terms of, oh, we have the United States of America, we're the greatest country, but we have some of the highest rates of violence against people, highest rates of shootings in schools. We have the highest rates of a lot of these things that are happening in our country. We're supposed to be one of the best countries in the world, but we have a lot of negative things that are happening in our country as well. So we're going to move on to one of our other questions. And we're probably not going to get to the rest of them. We want to kind of open it up for the audience to ask a question. This is my last question with the panel, and then we're going to open it up for the audience. So if you have questions, kind of get those ready. We're going to have the microphone in the audience to answer those questions as well. And this kind of deals, it's not necessarily a legal question per se, but it's kind of about how does the Stonewall riots impact the LGBTQ community today? Because for me, it's like when I think about the actual riot itself, it was one thing, but what we do now and today, when we look at the prides that actually spawned from that, it's a very different environment. It's not the same in terms of trying to empower people, trying to encourage people. It's not the same. So how does the Stonewall riots impact the LGBTQ community in today's society?
I'm gonna go ahead and get this started. So I think that we don't acknowledge, who was on the forefront and the front lines of Stonewall, right?
Come on, let's speak on it.
So
Let's speak on it.
right. So we up here talking about Black trans women and being protected when trans women of color was a part of Stonewall and started that, and we still having the conversation about the protection of Black trans folk and trans women of color, right? So that's a larger issue, right? So Stonewall, I don't know what it's doing. I know why they probably started, but I'm not sure if it's impacting or even if it's helping us, because now what I see, as we all see, is it has become a party for white gay folk. It's what I see.
Exactly.
And I'll leave it there.
That's right.
That was enough.
Yeah, and to piggyback on what you're just saying, because when we think about Stonewall, if you know about it, it was Black and brown trans women who were on the forefront fighting the police. However, the next year, when they actually did a pride event, which was to relate back to Stonewall, the Black and brown trans women were pushed to the back. They were not even involved in it. They had to fight to say, I want to say something at this particular rally. And then again, it goes back to we as people of color, Black people, Black and brown people, were continuously stifled in terms of how we actually are presented. Even though we've done all the work, we did all the put ourselves in harm's way or the movement, but the movement does not protect us. Jabari?
Oh, no, because I was going to go into that. And if you record and say their names, Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Riviera, because when they actually did come to the Pride events, y'all booed them.
That's right.
Y'all booed them and y'all made them feel like they wasn't nothing, and they died in poverty, living in shelters. I'm looking inside of the camera when I say this, because they are the reasons that you got the rights that you got to twirl your ass inside of the streets right now. Okay? And the sad part is just like Tatiana said, like the parades, the functions that they have don't really include us. And when I say us, I mean us. They don't really include us. The only time that they looking for us to show up is when they want some rights to be filled, when they want something up on the docket. That's the only time that they want for us to be inside of the inclusion. Because how long do we have to fight to have at least a brown line inside of the flag, or at least to be acknowledged? It needs to be acknowledged or whatnot. And then let's change the verbiage. Because what do you call it riots? It's a protest. It's an uprising. We ain't bring the tear gas. We didn't bring the rods that you hitting us with or whatnot.
Okay.
You're tagging us. You're tagging us and you're labeling us as animals. And that's the way that you want to keep track of us. These laws, these change your status on side of your license tag or your license plate or your license identification or whatever. You want to look at us with inside of the bias, when the truth is all of this is up on our shoulders, not just with black folks, but LGBT. We're on the front lines. We've always been on the front lines. And it's always the ones who are more effeminate and are transgendered that get the back shame, but they are the ones that are the bravest.
Yes, that's true. So we're going to move into the audience. If you have questions,
Just a quick comment. Just a quick comment. No, because there's no need for me to go after these two because that was. But I just want to comment. What I've realized and what I have seen is like we talk about LGBTQ, but sometimes some of those letters don't even like the T. And I've been in conversations with other gay males who don't understand transgender, don't like transgender, think it shouldn't exist. So that's an intra-party fight right there because I've had the conversations and some people are like, oh, it shouldn't exist. So, you know.
And I'm glad that you brought that up. That was really big of you to bring that up on this forum, because many gay men won't say that. They won't talk about that, but that happens behind closed doors, and those are conversations. Back to we talking about the safety of black trans women and trans folk. With those type of conversations and the discrimination within our own community, it's a larger conversation.
right, and that's the biggest problem. We have so many issues within our own community that we can't even address.
Because if the LGBT, if gays don't want transgender, then we're looking. What about cisgender males, and then getting into government, into politics?
I mean, the whole thing is really for us to start to support each other and really have those have honest conversations, not just rhetoric. Have real honest conversations about how you feel about things, and so therefore we can have a conversation and we can come to some resolution about different things. But we never talk about it. It's just there. It's just a big elephant sitting in the room. We can all walking around it, but we know that it's there because there are some people, like you're saying, some people who are part of black transgender loving men. They don't necessarily know or like transgender women. They have issues with them for whatever reason, but we don't talk about it. I personally don't have any, so I'm glad I could be able to talk to transgender women, ask questions and that type of stuff. So if I want to know something, I will ask. But, a lot of people are not like that, so therefore they have these issues and they never address it, never talk about it, just kind of harbor it. And then when they get behind closed doors with their other friends who are of the same mind, they can talk about it. But we need to be able to talk about it with our transgender siblings and find out and have those conversations so we can put it all out, so we can have a more harmonious way of looking at things. Because if we're continuously fighting within our community, we're not going to get anywhere because we're fighting here. And the fight is over here, that we need to find other people who are really harming us more so than we're harming each other. We're just bickering amongst ourselves. We need to talk to everyone, so therefore we can make sure that we're all on the same page. Who has a question, comment?
Hello. So I have a comment and then a question. So the transgender women's sex work, that can be very triggering for me. So I feel like if you've never had to do anything that you were ashamed of, or you've never had to be in survival mode, you've never had to, be in your house without your lights on, that's great. Count your blessings. I've never done sex work, but I've done some things that I'm not proud of. I've done some things that, I try to look back on and I've grown from it, but I did it because I had to survive. So when we talk about trans women, we talk about sex work, I feel like there's a lot of judgment there. Well, they really don't have to do that, or how Tati said, trans women don't have the same rights, don't have the same privilege that we have. Going to get even just a regular minimum wage paying job. You look, you turn your nose up. Most of us turn our nose up to that. There's some trans women that can't even get that. So it's not about, well, they have other options or they're not doing this to survive. I want us to kind of open ourselves up and be more understanding and let go of some of that judgment, because I think that there's so much judgment and stigma surrounded by Black women in sex work. Like it bothers me a lot when I hear that. Also, when I hear, oh, I know people that have problems with trans women, but I don't have a problem. It's more than not having a problem. Are you an ally? When you hear these people talking about trans women, are you sticking up? Well, wait a minute, hold on. Are you just in the room and you're quiet and compliant? That's where we're a family. LGBTQ, we have so much turmoil and fight within our own community, and that's where the problem lies. We show up for gay rights. We show up for, marriage equality. But where are we at when our trans siblings are out here being attacked with this legislation? Where are we at?
That's right.
TIG has calls for allies every Thursday. Where are we at? Are we here? Are we showing up for our trans siblings? Or are we just saying we're okay with trans and non-binary folks? That's not enough. It's not enough. And I challenge every person in here, be a real ally.
That's right.
Don't just say, I'm okay with trans men. I'm okay with trans women. That's not enough. It's not enough.
Folks are okay with being an ally until it becomes uncomfortable. The thing is when you're an ally, it's uncomfortable. Just like if you were a white person being an ally for Black Lives Matter, it's uncomfortable. You get what I'm saying? And that's the struggle. That is the struggle, because we have folks that are willing to fight, but they're not really fighters. You know what I'm saying? They're not really fighters. They don't really even know barely how to fight for themselves. So for them to say, I'm an ally or whatever, I'm showing up, I'm coming to the cookouts, I'm coming this, I'm doing this, or whatever the case may be, but when the conversations get uncomfortable inside of their friend groups, funny thing, and I'm trying not to be too long, but whatever, when it comes to white folks who be like, oh yeah, I have Black friends, but when I see your pictures from your house party, when I see your gatherings, you know what I mean?
At your house.
At your house.
Not
Ain't
at
blackface
your
there.
house.
Ain't blackface there. Really, are those your friends? They really the ally, but they don't want to be uncomfortable. I don't want to make my other friends uncomfortable. You know what I mean? So it reads off as, bitch, you ain't got no Black friends. You know?
And then one question, sorry.
I'm sorry.
I just have one question. I'm horrible with names, Mr. Officer. John. You talked about, when you talked about trans women and the brutality in North Miami, right? And you're running, you've been in law enforcement for a long time. Not saying you, but I've gone to these panels. I've gone in sometimes where I see elected officials, they come and they talk a great game and they want our vote. And then we give them our vote and nothing changes. So my question to you is, you've been in law enforcement for 18 years, you see this problem. Do you have any solutions? And when you are elected, if you're elected, what are you going to do in order to help these police officers get more educated so they can protect these Black trans women that are on the streets?
Yeah, no, absolutely. 18 years, yes, about to be 18 years, is a long time. The way our system is set up currently, the police department is at the whim of the mayor and 13 elected commissioners. So through my career, one mayor comes, one mayor goes. Some commissioners come, they go. Everyone has a different agenda, a different thought process of what they want the police to be doing and what we don't. So there's there's no way to change that system from within. You know, you're a part of it, and now if every 4 years, okay, there's a new county mayor. This is what this person wants. So now for the first time in nearly 60 years, we're gonna have an elected sheriff, one official elected by the people, in charge of public safety, in charge of this department. He will not be beholden to other elected officials, to the county mayor, to the commissioners. Yes, it has to be a working relationship, but the priority and policies in place will be that the sheriff's purview only. And there are a lot of things, and being there for 17 years, obviously I know Miami-Dade County, I know our communities, I also know the department, our capabilities, our personnel, but I also know our problems and where we need to improve. And there, you know, you know, my priorities as sheriff will be to have, obviously priority one, relationships with the community, building deep trust with the community, working with the community to find those solutions, like I said earlier, because that's what I've been doing my whole career, like conversations like this, with true communities within communities to figure out how we can do it better, because I don't have the answer for everything. Police cannot solve all your problems. We have to listen and work together, and sometimes there are officials that don't believe in that. They think I know everything and I'm gonna do it, I don't have to ask any questions. I'm gonna ask questions, I'm gonna figure out how to do it better. Secondly, I think we need more police in our patrol service, our law enforcement district patrol, because that's the basis of the foundation of every police agency in this nation. There have been a lot of specialized units created over the past few years whose function may not be quite necessary, you know? So as sheriff, I want to look at those units and reallocate resources to the road so that when we have all of these crimes occurring and these problems and these community that need solutions, we'll have the people there, officers, investigators, civilian staff, to handle the caseload, to handle the call volume, and then to also have time, because if you have more officers, then you're not going call to call, you have time to get out and meet and try to find solutions. And then, most importantly, I think there needs to be a training aspect. Nationwide, if you look at the research studies, police training, especially in the academy, some academies, we're 10 months, thank the Lord, but some academies are 6 months. 6 months and you're out on the road with a gun, go figure it out. What I want is both our basic training and our in-service training. Folks who are already cops and we get trained, retraining, I want to increase that. Most of the time, the training is spent on these high liability things such as physical, tactical skills, shooting, baton, like you mentioned, that's what the bulk of our training would go towards. But I want to add, I would like to have training every 6 months. So, the first part of the year, you do what you need to do for your retraining for FTLE standards to make sure you're still certified, you know how to shoot a target, you know how to stop a car in a high-risk stop, building searches for an armed gunman in a school or in a mall. Yes, you need to have that. But then the second 6 months, I would like more educational training and communication skills and community policing and fair and impartial policing, which I was an instructor for fair and impartial policing, which taught or trained officers about biases, both implicit and explicit, because those biases they affect the way we do our jobs. And being aware that everyone has a bias, even I have a bias, as a gay black male, I have a bias. Being aware that can affect how you do your job is very important. But the fact that I was a trainer, I went around the department and did that training, and that was the last time we did it, about 10 years ago or something like that. It's gone. Retraining needs to happen every year so it locks down and becomes natural. So, like I said, fair and impartial policing, communication skills, de-escalation, community policing. That way we can work and walk in the community and figure out how to do it better. And that includes training in, because I'm reading around, which is why there are other departments that train in transgender and how to interact and not outing them if you were to arrest them in a jail situation and things like that. So there needs to be more cultural awareness training. So my biggest thing is more personnel on the streets to help us handle these caseloads that we have, and a higher trained personnel to be the best agency in the United States.
So I do have a question. So I know you keep talking about adding more personnel, but how do we start with the personnel that's current and with them being culturally trained on how to deal with our transgender siblings? Because that's where the problem lies, not with adding more people that needs to be trained. They need to be trained.
I understand that. When I want to be clear, when I say adding more people, that doesn't mean some rapid hire and hiring a bunch of people day one. We are the largest department in the southeastern United States, as I said earlier. We're bigger than Atlanta, bigger than anything. We're the largest, 8th largest in the nation. We have a lot of officers, but they've created these units recently where our officers are taken from the street and they're put in the specialized unit. You know, you got weekends off and you got your little unmarked car. So I would reallocate those people that are already here back into the district. So they're already cops, they've been cops 10, 11 years, and then adding the training to those folks that are already here. So it's a two-edged prong. Get on the road and help our communities become safer. And while you're doing that, getting more training on how to work with these communities.
Okay. Oh, I'm going to switch it over to another topic. I just want to say that I respect.
Can I stop you right before you switch it over?
Okay.
Right? I don't want to take away the responsibility of us, because it takes a village. Let us get back to the village. You get what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure that your stance is that you're not going to tell us to write to our commission and to the 13 people that are inside of that board, that you would never tell us to write them letters and tell them to say, hey, check up, open your eyes, this is what we need. Because if we put the pressure on them to make the laws, to change the laws or whatnot, it can help him do his job more better, the stuff that he wants to do to help us or whatever. We have to help us, us.
And I was thinking the same thing when you was talking, right? Because what you was able to do was give us some insight of what's happening internal, right? We don't know that as a community.
Right.
So when we don't have that information, we don't know how to advocate to help you in those efforts. So it's important, like, now you're in this space, like, community, this is what you all need to do. And then we do that, and that's how we help each other.
Yes,
I was thinking that.
Yes,
Exactly.
Okay. First of all, I just want to say I'm surprised this room is not filled with, it's just amazing. But what I want to piggyback on is I want to say something to the pastor. My story is somewhat similar to your story. And what I want to say is that I am 63 years old, and it took God to put me to sleep for everything to come out about me. I had to live a life, all of my life, for someone else. I got COVID, and I was in the hospital for 3 months, and I was on a respirator for 27 days. Everything came out, and I was in the church. I was a head usher. I'm still the same person. Regardless if I'm gay or not, I still believe in a higher power. My sister was a pastor. A lot of things were said about me. But at the end of the day, I'm still standing. I'm still Herbert and stuff like that. So I applaud you, because it's really big in the black community with the black churches, is that they want, everybody is born into sin. God is God. God loves us regardless. And his first commandment was to love one another. And by me saying that, I was asleep, and the best thing when I was asleep, everything came out. My marriage, this, that. And if I'd have went to my family and told them that I was married, I would have been hammered. But I was asleep and it came out. And I must tell you, 63 years old, I'm living the best of my life now.
So Thank you for that. Thank you so much for being transparent, sharing her. Really appreciate it. We're gonna conclude there, just to respect everyone's time. Just want to thank you all for coming out for our community conversation tonight. And I know you said that you wonder why this room is not filled. I'm not. I mean, it's like I go to many of these type of things and they're never really filled. They're good number of people sometimes. It just depends on the group, the location, all these different day of the week, all these type of things, all these variables come into play in terms of how to show up.
Beautiful, just like it is.
For the ones that
No,
were here.
we need more people here.
Yes, yes.
We need more of the faces here.
Yeah.
We need more of the ones who start the conversations.
Yes.
We need the ones who be gossiping. We need the ones who be going up inside the club. We need the ones who checking up inside the streets. And we need the ones who sitting up there chasing after straight meat. We need all of them here, here, so that they can sit up here and they can tell a friend to tell a friend, so that we can be sitting up here and all of the word could be out there. You know what I mean? But the sad part is Miami, South Florida is a tough crowd. They'll clap when they're impressed, and they want to come out when there's somebody that they could be showing off for, even though they don't want to be saying that, okay, I'm here to be seen. Bitch, you here to be seen.
That part.
You know, the sad that I think the thing that I love the most about Lorenzo and the Eugenia Men's Collective is that they do the work. Is that they do the work. Because they do the work.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
But to the work, that's a good question. And we're gonna conclude. But to the work, what does the work look like, right? Because I think there's a lot of people in this what we call work that are just here to be seen, right? And not doing tangible work.
Right.
So when we talk about advocating and we're talking about we're trying to do better and we're working for us, what does that look like? Right?
Right.
And that's always have been my question, because we got since you and I started working, it's maybe about, I stopped counting the new nonprofits and it's like, what does the work look like? Because if we can't come together collectively, like in this space, right? We only see this many people, and we know how many people are in the community, right?
Exactly.
So what those collaborations look like?
Right.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. We're like you say, we do the work, but we're doing the work with the people that are collectively coming to participate. We want to do work with more people, but it's very challenging sometimes. You get your work, you do your work, you put your information out, you do all that you can do from your perspective. But again, like you were saying, we need all those other people. We need all those other faces here, because I can only share information with so many people. Whatever my social circle is, those are the people that I can share information with. However, someone else who has a larger social circle, they can share with those people. Because again, for me, it goes back to like when you go to church. It goes from the pulpit to the pews to the pavement. So therefore, the minister can talk about whatever in church. I don't have to be in church, but I can get that message because someone's going to tell me about it. Oh, pastor said this. It could be my uncle, cousin, whomever, but you're going to get the information. And hopefully that's what we're doing now. They're not here in the space, but the information will be shared with other people and will be shared with other people. So therefore, we can find out how can we do things for our community. Like how can we write those letters to, and who are we to write those letters to? So therefore, we can have some impact on how law enforcement treats us in our community. But it's incumbent upon us to make sure that we are educating ourselves to know what we need to do. Because if we don't know what to do, then we're going to continuously be browbeaten, beaten down by law enforcement, by whomever, because we don't know how to stop and change the laws, change the rules in terms of how we can do things differently. But again, thank you so much for coming out. This is our final one for this particular program that we were funded with our fund and the Community Foundation of Broward. So this is our last community conversation on that particular, with our social justice. But we probably have others in the future. Just to make sure we'll send information out, we'll put information out for people to come out and share different topics. So, but again, thank you for coming out. I want to thank our esteemed panel.
Thank you for that.
I think you guys were really amazing. Thank you so much for when I called, you responded and said yes. There were some other people I called, I'm still waiting. But thank you so much for coming out.